Friends, the situation between Pakistan and Afghanistan has deteriorated significantly. We are continuously witnessing fighting, airstrikes, and border clashes. Tensions between the two countries have escalated to such an extent that it is being described as an open war. Pakistan is carrying out airstrikes inside Afghanistan by claiming that it is targeting militant groups. In response, Afghan Taliban forces are retaliating across the border. Both countries are accusing each other of terrorism and justifying their respective attacks. The Durand line, which was drawn by the British between Pakistan and Afghanistan, is considered by Pakistan as the official international border. However, Afghanistan does not recognize it as a legal border. Afghanistan believes that this border was imposed by colonial powers and that it divides Pashtun tribes on both sides. Afghanistan also claims territory on Pakistan's side of the Durand line. Therefore, the Durand line, which is a colonial border, is a major reason behind the modern conflict between Afghanistan and Pakistan. For a long time, there was no such hostility between Pakistan and the Afghan Taliban. In the 1990s and early 2000s, Pakistan considered the Taliban to be useful. Pakistan viewed the Taliban as a tool that could help it achieve its regional goals and provide strategic depth. You may recall that when the Taliban regained power in Afghanistan in 2021, after the United States fled from the country, Pakistan celebrated the development. Pakistan did not realize that the very Taliban, whose creation it had supported, whom it had trained, backed and organized in the 1990s, and whose militant movement it had helped establish, would eventually turn against it. Today, the instability across the Durand line reflects this very story. In 1979, when the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, the conditions for the creation of the Taliban began to emerge. Many Afghan fighters who were called the Mujahideen resisted the Soviet Union. With the help of the United States and through Pakistan, these fighters were provided training and weapons. The ISI supported these fighters. As a result, thousands of radicalized and battle-hardened fighters emerged. After the 10-year Soviet invasion ended and the Soviets withdrew from Afghanistan in 1989, a civil war broke out in Afghanistan. Pakistan wanted a friendly force in Afghanistan. Inside refugee camps in Pakistan, young Afghans were taught a strict interpretation of Islam. Through madrasas, a movement was prepared. These radicalized students were organized around Mullah Omar in southern Afghanistan, and in this way, the Taliban was created. Pakistan provided the Taliban with training, weapons, logistics, and bases. Pakistan's security logic stated that if there was a friendly government in Afghanistan, it would reduce Pakistan's fear of being encircled by India. It would provide strategic depth. It would end the civil war in Afghanistan. It would end chaos and help secure trade routes to Central Asia. Coordination was easier because of shared religious networks. With the support of the United States, Saudi Arabia, and Pakistan, the Taliban was created and organized, and by 1996, it had captured Kabul. The Taliban was ruling over most parts of Afghanistan. Then in 2001, after the 9/11 attacks, the situation changed. The United States removed the Taliban from power. Pakistan supported the US at that time, and now Pakistan faced the problem that it had to manage the very militant networks it had once backed. After being removed from power, many Taliban leaders began regrouping in border regions. Gradually, militant attacks inside Pakistan started increasing. In this context, one name specially stands out: Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. This is a militant group that seeks to overthrow the Pakistani state. Pakistan claims that TTP fighters use Afghan territory as a safe haven and carry out attacks inside Pakistan. These attacks have eroded trust between Pakistan and Afghanistan. Pakistan believes that the Afghan Taliban is unable to stop TTP attacks taking place inside Pakistan. During the Cold War, the rise of the Taliban took place because of great power rivalry. It emerged through a refugee crisis and religious mobilization. It was also driven by Pakistan's desire to gain strategic influence in Afghanistan. However, this short-term security strategy changed the entire region for decades. Years of mistrust, security failures, and cross-border clashes continue to erupt into violence from time to time. This is exactly what we are witnessing now. In the current conflict, Pakistan's version is that Afghan Taliban forces attacked Pakistan's border positions, and in response to this aggression, Pakistan conducted military operations inside Afghanistan. Pakistan claims that it targeted Taliban military sites. Pakistan is calling its operation Ghazab lil Haq. It is describing it as retaliation against threats and attacks coming from Afghan territory. By conducting strikes inside Afghanistan, the Pakistani military reinforces its narrative that it is defending the nation. Its credibility increases. From the perspective of internal politics, this is beneficial. Ceasefire diplomacy has collapsed. Pakistan is now attempting to impose security outcomes through the use of force. In Pakistan, it is almost impossible for the leadership to not link their every problem with India. This time as well, the Pakistani leadership quickly linked the Afghan Taliban with India. It labeled the Afghan Taliban as a colony of India or India's proxy. It used this claim to justify its bombing of Afghan cities. At present, cross-border strikes are continuing. Taliban forces are also retaliating across the border. Instability persists in the border region. Pakistan is under pressure to contain militancy. At the same time, the Afghan Taliban is under pressure to assert its sovereignty. Like many of Pakistan's problems, this too is a self-made crisis that the Pakistani military is currently struggling to control. TTP attacks undermine the Pakistani military's narrative that it is successfully defending the nation. The Pakistani military faces significant political and security embarrassment due to it. In response, Pakistan conducts symbolic strikes inside Afghanistan. It does so to demonstrate strength before the Pakistani public. This has happened many times before. However, so far, the Pakistani military has failed to deliver any decisive military outcome. However, the situation is gradually moving beyond symbolic messaging. Escalation is increasing. Pakistan has now gone further and targeted Kabul, Paktika, and Kandahar. Pakistan's Defense Minister Khwaja Asif has declared an open war. By doing so, Pakistan has placed itself in a situation that it may not be able to control easily. Managing the consequences of Pakistan's actions will be extremely difficult. Carrying out unprecedented strikes on Afghanistan's capital and key provinces, not only near the border but deep inside Afghan territory, and using the air force and then expecting that this will solve Pakistan's internal security problems is unrealistic. Afghanistan has rightfully considered this a violation of its sovereignty and is responding forcefully, which is rapidly escalating the situation. Religious nationalism within Pakistan and the belief that it can manage an aggressive stance against a weaker neighbor may eventually prove costly for Pakistan. Many times, because of leaders' rhetoric and domestic pressure, bad decisions are taken or risky policies are formulated that later demand a heavy price. Pakistan's military leadership believed that by conducting a heavy-handed military attack in response to security threats coming from Afghanistan, it would appear tough before the domestic audience. However, the scale of retaliation coming from Afghanistan may not have been fully anticipated by Pakistan because this could trigger a wider conflict. Pakistan should not forget that many Mujahideen fighters were trained on its own soil, and the powerful militant networks that were created can become a source of instability for Pakistan at any time. This is especially significant when the idea of Pashtunistan exists. Many Afghan leaders want to unite all Pashtun territories, which include areas in modern-day Pakistan. This poses a threat to Pakistan's territorial integrity. For these reasons, tensions continue between Pakistan and Afghanistan. Afghanistan is a landlocked country. Goods from India could easily enter Afghanistan by road through Pakistan. However, Pakistan has blocked this route. Because of this, Afghanistan has to rely on more expensive alternatives for trade. Pakistan also restricts which goods can enter Afghanistan through its ports such as Karachi. Pakistan uses these kinds of economic controls as pressure points during negotiations. However, this creates resentment inside Afghanistan. It generates anger toward Pakistan. Pashtun communities living in Pakistan consider the Pakistani state to be dominated by Punjabis and other groups. According to them, the Punjabi-dominated state neither understands nor respects Pashtun traditions. In 2018, Pakistan decided to change the status of the tribal areas. This led to the dismantling of traditional governance structures. This decision also angered the Pashtuns. They viewed it as an attempt to take away their autonomy. This identity gap fuels militant recruitment. This is why many Afghan Pashtuns view Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan forces in a positive light. This is a matter of concern for the Pakistani military leadership. The relationship between Pakistan and the Afghan Taliban began on the basis of cooperation. Today, it has turned into tension. It has transformed into mutual accusations. Both sides accuse each other of interference and of sheltering militants. These tensions are now appearing in the form of open war. The violence that has erupted does not have a single cause. Many historical factors lie behind it. These include mistrust over the Durand line, competing national visions, the refugee crisis, ethnic identities, trade and economic disputes, and militant networks. This problem and friction, which have continued for decades, periodically emerge as conflict. Decades of disagreements and unsolved tensions surface in the form of confrontation.